My name is Diane Higgins. I'm a freelance graphic and web designer, and I'm based in Cork. I've experience in a number of disciplines from design to digital marketing, and I'm currently studying a master's in digital marketing strategy in CIT. So I work mostly with startups and with SMEs, and I try to refine their marketing. And what I try to do is to kind of create visuals that communicate people's brand messages. So working with startups allows me to be at my most creative, and I really love to work with a brand from the beginning. Objectives for the session. So by the end of the session, we'll have gone through the following items. I hope to establish what design can do for you. We're going to learn the process of logo design. We're going to differentiate between a logo and branding design. We're going to learn the questions to ask yourself when planning content. And then we're going to go through how to create visual content using canva.com. Okay, so why DIY? And by DIY, I mean design it yourself. So why would you need to learn about logo design if you're not a logo designer, if you're not a designer at all? So I'd like to use the chat function here. So please put your comments up in the chat. And why do you think you might design your own logo when you're not a designer? So don't be shy. I'm not sure, can I see the chat here, but Christina is going to give me a hand and read out your comments anyway.
Oh,
save money? Yes, definitely. That's a major one, Michelle. To reflect my ideas, of course, yes. Can't afford a design agency, yeah. So again, cost is a major factor here. Can't afford a design agency, yes, yeah. So cost is definitely a big factor. More control, again, yes, that you want to have your own input, I guess, into the design process. Anything else? You best know yourself. I see that. Yeah, that's very good. Yeah. Okay. An opportunity to build your skills. So for many startups that I work with, budget is definitely a major issue. So if you can design your own logo and make it look professional, it will reduce your costs to get yourself up and running, which is what you want to do as a startup. You just want to get yourself going, get your name. Okay, so also if you can have a lot of the research and the other work done before you come to a designer, it might even reduce your costs. Even if you do end up hiring a designer, if you have a lot of the groundwork done, then that will reduce your costs when you do go to a designer, if that's the method that you choose. Okay, so it can be part of your job to work with a designer to produce a logo. So some of you may work in marketing, and marketing and design now go hand in hand. And I know this well myself. I'm studying a master's at the moment in digital marketing, and I started as a graphic designer. So I realized that design and marketing really now have kind of come together, and part of a marketer's job now is to work with designers to kind of tell them what they're looking for, but also sometimes it can be to produce some design work in-house. So having knowledge of the process is very good for a marketer. So you might own your own business, and I'm sure some of you here do. So you might own your own business and you want to be fully involved in the process. So again, somebody mentioned this here a minute ago. So when you run your own business, it's your reputation and it's your values that are out there in the public eye. So being involved in the process, either by doing it yourself or by understanding how it works and getting involved, will allow you to bring your ideas and your values into the creation of the brand. Okay, so you might have personal reasons as well why you'd like to learn how to do a logo design. So sometimes you might be involved in a community association or a sports club, a parents association, anything like that, and that you might need a logo for your t-shirts. A lot of people in the boating industry need logos, so it's great to know how to make that logo look good and stand out. Okay, so the next section is logo versus brand. Okay, so this is an age-old question. So there's a quote by Aristotle: "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." And I always think of this quote as meaning the meaning behind a brand. So a brand is not just a logo, but it's not just any of the other elements either. It's greater than the sum of its parts. So each part goes to make up the brand, and the brand in totality becomes great in itself. Okay, so I'm going to use the chat function here again, and I'd like to ask you guys what other than a logo defines your brand. So I'll just open the chat here now again. Yes, yeah, to start getting ideas rolling for the last one. Okay, yes, the USP, very good. Branding, tone of voice. Tone of voice is very important, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, that's great, Christina, very good. Colors, fonts, and styles. Again, those are visual elements that all go to make up the brand. Yeah, colors, and we'll speak about that in a minute as well. Very good. The values, very important one as well. Yeah, that's excellent. You have most of them covered actually, which is great. Okay, so I just go through what I had here for this one. Okay, so your color scheme. So this is all of the colors that you use and the symbolism behind those colors. For example, purple to denote royalty, blue for clean and clinical, yellow for happy to denote sunshine. Okay, your mission statement. So this is why you're doing what you're doing and what you want to achieve. So many companies have mission statements, some people don't, but it's definitely a good idea to try and have one. Your values. So this is extremely important when it comes to branding. So as well as talking the talk, you have to walk the walk. But talking the talk is important as well. So being able to communicate what exactly you stand for as an organization. So deciding what you stand for is one part of your values, and then communicating that. Your products and services, what kind of products you sell, and how do they work against the competition. Your staff, so this is kind of in two parts. So how do you treat your staff, and how do your staff treat your customers? What do your staff say about you? The experience, so this can be user experience, the two words that we're all kind of very familiar with at the moment. But like, what is it like to use your products? What is it like to go to your offices? What is it like to use your services? How do you treat people, and how do you relate to people? Your website, what is your website like? Is it easy to use? Is it responsive? Does it give the information that customers want? Your pricing strategy, so how much do you charge? Are you a luxury brand? Are you an affordable brand? Your reputation, so how do your past customers see you? What do they say about you? And your tone of voice, so somebody mentioned this as well a while ago. So this is a very important one to establish when you're creating content. So for visual stuff, tone of voice is very, very important. So how do you speak to people in person, and is that connected when you go on social media and when you're delivering any sort of content and presentations? Okay, so throughout all the uses of the brand that we spoke about here, so your logo and the visual elements, they need consistency. So consistency can sometimes make people feel that they must be rigid, but I really don't think that this is the case. Sometimes I find that consistency can actually allow you to be flexible because you know the boundaries. Okay, so the visual aspects that represent your brand are what I call a logo system. So I'm just going to go through an example of the difference between a logo and the visual elements of a brand, because it can be a little bit confusing. So Agradine Communications. So this client came to me with her logo. Now her logo was already designed by another designer, and it's a nice logo. But she wanted to expand the logo into more of a brand visually. So I guess if you think that a logo is a brand, then that would be it. But so what we did, so although she already had a logo, we started to create a visual brand to go with that logo. Okay, so what we did then was we designed a number of items. So from a color-coded suite of icons that represent her values, so you can see those on the top left there. So to photography that represents the tone of voice. So we discussed tone of voice. So her business is of a corporate nature but friendly. So we tried to get images that would represent that tone of voice and use them in all of our visual elements. We created a shape, so you can see the organic shape there that we're using. So that shape was inspired by the organic shapes that are actually in the original logo, and we use these in visual materials. So we created a PowerPoint template that she can use in all of her presentations, and we created some social media posts. And this shape then now gives the brand recognition as the brand. So we also created a quick video that incorporates some of these elements that showcase her brand. So once we had the initial work done in terms of kind of coming up with all of these visual elements that denoted her brand visually, it just became a lot easier then to create any content, as we had kind of established a visual system. So here are some of the slides from the PowerPoint that we created. So this is one that just shows, so she can use that PowerPoint now for different uses and change it as her business grows and changes. So that has her pillars, and it shows her values again and what she stands for. Again, this is the shape just being used along with the colors, along with the logo. So everything kind of fits in really nicely together. We created some imagery, and then this is the video. So I'll just show you it for a minute, but you can see how all of the elements start to work together. Can you hear this?
Communications consultancy, expert in change, culture, and reputation. We work with companies both nationally and globally to solve problems in their business and deliver lasting change, improved engagement, and accelerated performance. As companies grow, sometimes their purpose gets lost behind a corporate veil. As a result, both employees and the public question intentions and integrity, and this lack of trust holds businesses back. By putting purpose front and center, companies can make better connections with employees, customers, and the communities where they operate. That's what we do. Help companies tell their stories effectively and enable good businesses thrive. We turn strategy into action. Using our bespoke embed and grow method, we help companies who need to change the way they operate to deliver change that sticks. We're passionate about the power of purpose, and that's central to what we do. Accelerating change through purpose-driven stories that connect, engage, and achieve results. My name is Jacinta Collins, and this is RD Communications.
Okay, so you can see there the difference between the logo that she initially came to and then the brand that we built up around that logo and all the visual elements that go with the brand. So we always say as designers to keep it simple. Now, some people are a little bit unsure as to how simple to make a logo. So there's a really great series on Netflix, and it's called Abstract. I don't know if some of you have seen it. But in the first episode, which features an illustrator called Christoph Niemann, he explains a concept he calls the abstractometer. So Christoph discusses the sweet spot between realistic and abstract with a simple depiction of a heart representing love. Okay, so he shows the ultimate abstraction of a heart as a red square with two lines. But he discusses that if you use this to represent a heart, no one will know what you're talking about, because they won't be able to make the link between the square and the actual heart. So this is what Christoph describes as too abstract. It's too simple. And then at the other end of the scale, if you draw a realistic looking, bloody, gory heart, Christoph says it's too disgusting, that people won't actually be able to associate it with love, which is what you're trying to represent by using the heart. So on the abstractometer, there's a Goldilocks level that's just right. So between too abstract and too realistic, you can find usually just a sweet spot in the middle that's just right in terms of how simple do you make something. So it's just to kind of show you the difference between very, very simple and very abstract and just simple enough. Okay, so now I'm going to go through my process of designing a logo. So this is not the same for every designer, but this is generally what works for me. Okay, so think, research, explore, sleep. So this is my favorite one. Choose and execute. So as you will see, execute is the last step in the process. Many people think that when you're designing, you need to be a kind of Picasso, that execution is the main part of the job, but it's actually the ability to think that is the most important part of the job, in my opinion. And we can all do that just by dedicating a little bit of time to it. So with all the tools available now for free, the execution of the logo is actually one of the easiest parts, but we will go through that later. Okay, so think. So at this point, usually I think about the purpose of the logo. I think about who it's for, who's the target audience. Okay, so the great thing about designing a logo for a new business is the potential. It's the creation moment of the brand, and it's filled with so many possibilities. So what I try to do when I'm designing a logo is I try to harness those possibilities first and then explore the potential. So this is the creative phase. This is where there's no wrong answer. And the more the merrier, really, in terms of ideas and thoughts here. So I always start on paper. Now, it's very tempting to start with your computer, but there's something about the fact that you can crumple up a piece of paper that gives you a bit of freedom to be more creative. Um, it's much more fluid, which makes it much more flexible and quicker to work with. So I use mind maps a lot. Now, I'm sure you've used mind maps before, you know, word bubbles and things like that. So this is an example here from some of my own notebooks of some mind maps that I did for a recent that I did for a homewares company. So it was called All About Your Home. So it just shows kind of how I was sketching out the different ideas. And I usually try to make this as visual as possible. And it's just so that you have something in your mind when you're thinking. It doesn't matter if you can't draw, it's just to get an idea really of the different ways that you can represent the different things. So first you think of words associated with the name of your business. Think of words associated with how you want to be portrayed, and think of words associated with your products or services. And then try to expand these both verbally by using connected words, so using the mind map method, and using thesaurus is very helpful actually sometimes, just putting it into Google and just seeing what other words come up. And visually by thinking of different things that represent these words. So that in itself then creates a lot of ideas then that portray what you want the brand to be like. And even if you look at your mind maps before you've any research done, you'll see an idea of what you want your brand to start to form on the page, which is really nice. Okay, so the next stage then is research. So this usually falls into two categories. So the first category is general visual inspiration. So looking at Pinterest, looking at Google, looking at Shutterstock. I tend to stick more to the first, more general inspiration, because it's related to my mind mapping, which is my first stage. And I don't want to be the same as my competition. So I want to stand out. Now, I will always have a look at the competition to see what's out there. Okay, so the next stage then is to explore. So you narrow these ideas down and you come up with a few options that you feel represent the brand. From there, you get feedback from others. Now, you need to choose wisely here as to who you pick for this, because constructive criticism is key. It's not really about just getting criticism, it's about finding ways that you can improve and thinking of things that you may not have thought of yourself. Okay, so my favorite part, sleep. Okay, so this is definitely my favorite part. You need to let the ideas and options settle in your mind. Now, you don't actually have to sleep for this part, but you can if you want. You can go for a walk. I always find that getting out and not thinking about things really helps to come back with a fresh pair of eyes. Go down and take a swim, go for a walk with your kids, whatever it is that just helps you just to relax and just take your mind off all of the stuff that you're thinking about. Okay, so the next section is to choose. So narrow the options down to your favorite design that you feel is the best fit for your brand. And then it comes to execution. So you put your final logo together, you're thinking about how it looks on different platforms. You play around with the type and the colors and alternatives, and you choose the best fit. You can start to build a system around this then to make your logo flexible. So this means then being able to use your logo in different ways for all the uses that you need, such as for print, packaging, social media, wherever you're going to use it. So with this logo, all of those are the same logo that we chose at the end of the day, but they're just portrayed then in different ways and for different uses. Okay, so the good news is that when it comes to creating content, the process is exactly the same. So now that you can design a logo using the steps above, you can design anything. The key is to think first and to type after. So when it comes to content, there are a few things that you need to consider first. So for me, the most important question is our audience. Many businesses make the mistake of creating content all about them. But the reverse is the better option. So make it valuable to your audience and you can't go wrong. Think about your audience. What are their goals? What are their knowledge? What's their experience, their expertise, their needs and their wants? So it's not about you. An easy way to look at it is to create what are called personas. So when I first heard about personas, I thought it was just such a great, really handy way to think about content creation. So what you do is, some of you may know about this already, but so you create a separate fictional character for each segment of your market. So your market will be made up of different types of people that use your product or service. So for example, this here is Rachel. So when Rachel is a customer of mine, I'll know what Rachel wants, what social media platforms she hangs out in, where she lives and what her values are. And when I go to create a piece of content, I say, I'm going to create a post for Rachel. And then I have to think, will Rachel like this post? What way should it look to catch Rachel's attention? And where online will Rachel most likely to see it? If you can ask yourself these questions before putting out any content, then you'll be adding more value to your content right away. And then you can start to put out posts for Rachel, Peter, John, whoever, and then you can have all of your different posts. Okay, so when it comes to content, then planning is super important. There are tools that you can use that will help you plan your content. So this is Trello. This is a public template from Trello that is just an example of content planning. But it's just a very handy tool that you can be able to see what different types of content that you plan to do, and you can put it into a calendar view, and you can have your deadlines on it. So it just makes it much easier, and then you kind of know where to start. So before you start even going to create any content, you have a plan and you kind of know who you're doing it for, and you know what the styles are. And if you have your brand and your logo and everything figured out, it just makes it a lot easier then. Okay, so I'm going to show you now quickly how to use canva.com. So some of you may have used it before and others may not, but it's really user-friendly. It's really, really good. I think it'll put me out of business because it's just so good and really good for you to use yourself. It's just, all you need is an email address in order to be able to register. So if you go online, if you don't already have an account, go, and there's a free version. There's also a pro version where you can pay for some images and things like that. And you can put up your brand typography and upload all your own stuff like that. But the free version is usually fairly much enough. Sometimes you can pay for individual elements, but I'm just going to go there now and just go through it quickly. Okay, so within canva.com, then there's a section here called Learn, and that has lots of different tutorials of different ways. Now it has tutorials of different ways to use Canva, but it also has general tutorials about different aspects of design and stuff, which are very helpful. Okay, so there's a thing here called Starter Challenge. So I'll go through it here just to show you how simple it is. But once you register, you can go through it yourself. It's a 2-minute challenge, basically, just that shows you how to use canva.com. Okay, somewhere it will come up. Okay, so become a design pro in minutes, and it's actually very true. Okay, so click on this circle to change it to your favorite color. So I'm going to click on this circle here, and up here now the color bar comes up, and I can just click on it, and I can pick. Now I can use any color I want here. I can put in a hex color if you want your brand colors to actually go in, or I can just choose any color at all. Okay, so I'm going to choose a blue. Search for hat and put it on this monkey. Okay, so I'll go into elements. So on the left hand side here, then you can see there's templates, uploads, photos, elements, text, styles, videos, background, and folders. So you can go through each of these yourself when you have a chance, but they're very, very user friendly, and it's very, very easy to use. Okay, so within each section then you can search or you can just browse. Okay, so hat. Okay, so within those now, so these are the ones that are free, so you'll see they don't have any kind of little badge on them. So the ones with the badge then are the pro ones. Now if you decide to use a pro item, you can use it without having a pro account. You can just pay individually for the items. Usually they're about €1 each, so it's not very expensive if there is a particular item that you want. But I'm just going to use the free one, and I click on it and I bring it over to my monkey. And it's very easy just to resize. It's very intuitive. And I'm just going to put it onto the monkey's head so he looks cute there now. Add a background to this page. Okay, so I'm going to go into photos. And again, I can search here if I wish, or I can just go through the images. And my internet is a little bit slow, I think, because of the storm. Okay, so I can go through, so you can scroll down, and there's thousands of different images, thousands of different templates for different things. So I'll choose which one I want. So in order to add a background, you bring your image over, and when you see the blue lines appear, there you go. That will add it in as a background. And as with a lot of programs, there's 2 or 3 different ways to do different things. Okay, so search for fruit, drag your favorite image into the frame below. Okay, fruit. Okay, so this one is, now that has a watermark on it, which means that it's a pro image. So you can pay for that and it will remove the watermark, or you can just change it and add a free one. Okay, choose a template from the sidebar on the left, click uploads and use your photos. Okay, so I'm going to choose a template. So here you go. So I can then replace the current page with it, or I can add it as a new page. I'm going to add it as a new page. And then in the same way that we searched for the images, a while ago, you can go to uploads and you can use your own images or your own icons and change these for them. Okay, so that's the tutorial complete for canva.com. So I'm just going to show you then how I might create something for my business using the templates. So that was just a quick starter. So we have 10 minutes left, so I'm going to do this for about 5 minutes and we'll see how much we get through of it, and then I'll leave 5 minutes at the end for questions and answers. Okay, so I'm going to create something based on the 6 steps that I just went through with you for design. Okay, so this is your home page, so it shows your previous designs, it shows your folders. If you do have a pro account, you can get your brand kit in here, which has your fonts and your logos and everything like that. And up here then you have templates. Okay, so you can see here it's very easy. You can it depends on what size you want stuff and what function you have. But again, as we went through, you've done all that thinking already, so you already know what you're doing and who you're doing it for and what style you want it in. So like if you were going for social media posts and social media content down here, and you can look through those templates, I'm going to go for an infographic to show the 6 steps that I've just gone through. So I'm going to click on infographic. You can do slides, you can do what you want really, brochures, and it gives you the option to download them in different file formats as well. Okay, so infographic templates. Okay, so I have 6 steps. So I'm going to try and look for something here that has 6 items in it. Okay, so this one here. So you just click on it. And I'm sorry if my internet is a little bit slow, and I'm going to click use this template. So simple steps to bicycle safety. Obviously that isn't what I want to say. So I'm going to click into this. It's not normally this slow. I think it's just because of the storm. Okay, so how to create professional design content. So it's added my text in here. So now I can click into that and I can change the color. So again, like we saw earlier, so I like to use a lot of pinks. So I'm going to use a pink for my text. And I'm also going to change the background into a white. Okay, so already it's looking a little bit more like what I like, or what my style is. Okay, so I'm going to change this icon, and I'm going to, number 1 is pink. So I'm going to go into the elements here, which is where your icons are, and I'm going to search for pink. Okay, so I like to use fairly plain, straightforward. So I'm going to look down here. Okay, so this one here, and it's free, which is good. So I'm going to add that in. Okay, so that has come in a little bit bigger, so I'm going to resize it. And I'm going to just bring it in here. Now it's on top of my other icon, so I'm just going to go to position. I'm going to move this for a second. I'm going to go to position, and I'm going to send it backwards. Now the other icon is on top of it, so I can just click that and click delete. and that's now in my new icon. So I then will go through these items individually and I will change them. So where it says protect your head, I'm going to change that to pink. And again, I'm going to change the color. So you can go, this shows me now the colors that are already in the document. So my pink is up here. So I'm going to change that to the pink. So you can continue down and you can search for each icon. I'm going to delete some of the text here. So you just go in and you just click or right click on items and it'll show you a menu. And up here, the positioning and the transparency items. And once you click into an item, then you get the options for the colors. Okay, so that's about it, really. You just continue down and keep going. Okay, so up here then is where you can change it to your different file formats when you're finished. So up here, if I click on it here, I'm going to download it. So you can print it, they will print it for you. You can download it, you can share it directly to your social media. There's lots of options that you do. So usually I'll just click on download, so then I'll have it in my computer. And then again, there's different file formats. So usually for something like this, I will do it as a JPEG or a PNG, depending on what platform you want it for and what you want to use it for. So I just click on JPEG and it'll download it to my computer. Actually, it won't, because there are some premium elements on this, so you'll have to pay for it. But if I had used all free items on this, I would just click download here and it would download to my computer.